Okay, here we go. So on July 3rd of 2015, Crystal was excited because her boyfriend, Brooks Houck, as I like to call him, the hooligan, had promised her a special kid-free romantic date. Now, she was the mother of 5 kids. Only one of them she'd had with the hooligan, the youngest. So she was excited. It was a kid-free weekend, night. They were having this romantic date. It was going to be awesome. She never came home. Now, this was July 4th weekend. Her mother knew something was wrong because she couldn't get a hold of her daughter. And Crystal's oldest girl had called her grandmother saying, I can't reach my mom. So her mom kept trying. And finally, her dad said, you know what? Go report her as a missing person. So Sherry did. Sherry went to report her. And as she was driving, she saw the hooligan because he was coming into town. So she got him to pull over, and she ran up and asked him, where's Crystal? And he goes, well, she left last night, but I thought she'd be back by now. And so all of a sudden, this little head popped around the seat, and it was her 2-year-old grandson, the one that Crystal had had with Brooks, or the hooligan. Now, you have to understand something. Brooks never took the baby, Eli, by himself. Crystal was always with Eli. She would have never left Eli. And the minute her mother, Sherry, saw the baby, she knew something was really wrong. So she went and she reported her daughter missing. And in this time, her father wasted no time. Her father started searching for her, got searching parties going, because he had 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, but he adored Crystal like he adored his other daughter, and he wasn't going to stop, looking for her. Now, 2 days later, well, it wasn't even 2 days later, because it was on the day that she was standing at the police station, they get a phone call from Crystal's ex-husband's son. He had had an older son by a previous marriage. And he called and told Sherry, I just spotted Crystal's car, her red Impala, out abandoned on Bluegrass Parkway with a flat tire. Her keys, her phone, and her purse are still inside, but he said, I can't find Crystal. Let's go to the next slide. And this really scared him because this was not something that her daughter would do. So Hooligan, who's the father of that youngest child, Eli, he did claim he was the last person to see her alive. So according to Brooks, when he went to bed that night after their date, she decided to stay up and play video games on her phone. And he went to bed and went to sleep because, he just does not like video games. But when he got up, she was gone, and Eli was sleeping beside him. So things get suspicious because when they check Crystal's phone records, her phone battery died at 9:23 p.m. that night when they were still on their date. Now, you might ask, where did he take her on this date? He took her to the family farm. Yeah, you got that. And actually, Eli went with him, so it wasn't a child-free family, date. She had the 2-year-old, and they went to the family farm. Now, while they're still at the farm, Brooks claims she was playing on her phone, remember, when she went to sleep, but the phone while they were still at the farm. So that's the story that's not going to make the math. And our next slide, because Doc didn't get my little thing set up, so I have to tell him, you guys. So from the beginning, her parents suspect the hooligan because there was no good reason for Crystal to walk off. Of course, the police are the first thing they're going to say is, well, she's the mother of 5. Maybe. Oh, now all of a sudden I can hear myself again. Yuck. Okay. So um, the police think, well, she's just wanted to get away. The children have become too much. And they told him no, that this is a woman that lives for her children. She would not walk off and leave the kids behind. Now, her sister had told her mom that I can't remember if it was just like the week before, Crystal had told her that I'm going to quit my job with the hooligan and I'm going to, get a new job and I'm going to leave him. Now, the hooligan's family was well known in the area. They were wealthy. So she had tried to leave before and it didn't work out because she was really nervous about him taking Eli away from her. But Brooks's behavior after Crystal's disappearance was really bizarre. His girlfriend disappears, and as the mom's going to report it, he goes ahead and goes to a 4th of July party. I mean, that's odd. Your girlfriend's missing, and you tell the mother, oh, yeah, you ought to report it, and then he takes off and goes to a party. He ignored all of her family's text messages to him and phone calls. He wouldn't answer anything. The only person he talked to was his mother, Rosemary. And she is going to play a big part in here. So he made minimal effort to search for Crystal. He joined no search parties whatsoever. All he cared about was trying to clear his name. Now, her parents actually were on Nancy Grace, and he phoned in. Big mistake on his part because Nancy, we love her. She just kind of, every time he thought he had an answer to a question, Nancy's like, well, why didn't you go to the police station? Well, ma'am, he tried his Southern charm. It did not work on Miss Nancy Grace. She was not having it. It's nothing. So, but they realized as they talked about this that the hooligan could not have done this on his own. Okay? Oh, Doc, you're using the wrong thing. But this case reveals a disturbing family conspiracy involving the hooligan's mother, Rosemary, and his brother, Nick. Nick was actually a Bardstown police officer at this time. Okay? That's something to think about. Can we have the next slide, Doc? And you might wonder, well, why would the family get involved in this? Well, let me describe what a toxic family dynamic that turns deadly is like. Rosemary couldn't stand Crystal. Not because Crystal was a bad person. No. But because when she had married, or well, not married, but had taken up with Brooks, or the hooligan, Rosemary decided she just wasn't good enough for their family and the family name. Because Crystal was the mother of 4 children that had been from a previous relationships. And so, dear holy Rosemary decided that she was damaged goods and she couldn't fit into their family. Now, this isn't just your typical mother-in-law drama, truth seekers. This is pure class warfare going on. This is a picture of Crystal's dad and her brother and friends. They're searching for her. When they found out about that car on that interstate, they went. Her dad was like a dog with a bone. He was going to find his girl. Multiple witnesses testified that Rosemary made her feelings clear about Crystal. And she even told people that she's not going to be around anymore. We'll raise that child right. Listen to the arrogance. Can you imagine your mother-in-law saying that about your child? That you're not going to be around, so she's going to raise him right? As if she'd already decided Crystal's fate and was planning to take over raising Brooks, or hooligan, and Crystal's son, Eli. Let's have the next picture, Doc. And here's where it gets really chilling. there was a man named Danny Singleton, okay? And he worked construction for the hooligan. And he testified that Rosemary approached him at a job site with a question that should have sent him running to the police, which tells you the caliber of person he is. She asked him if he knew anyone who could get rid of Crystal Rogers. Well, Singleton told her, with enough money, you can get anything done. Rosemary didn't dismiss it. She didn't say she was kidding, that it was a joke. She was dead serious about finding someone to murder her son's girlfriend. Go ahead, Doc. Next slide. And so after Crystal disappeared, her behavior was really telling. She went to the hooligan's house where Crystal had been living, dug up purple flowers that Crystal had just painted or planted, and was erasing any trace of Crystal in that house because she truly despised her. So this wasn't grief. This wasn't concern. This is a woman that is celebrating the removal of somebody she saw as an obstacle to her family's reputation. I mean, think about that. And that is the horrendous Rosemary. She's an evil woman. So this loving mother of five, Crystal, was nothing but an inconvenience that had to be eliminated. And she was just a cold-blooded hatred that she had for her. Because if she had just gone, let's say, missing and was going to show up one day, she wouldn't have gone into that house and taken over. So this was orchestrated. And the cover-up that follows, it is just horrendous. And the prosecution was correct when they stated that this was a family conspiracy. And it began with this mother's twisted sense of superiority accumulated into coordinated effort to make Crystal Rogers disappear forever. Next slide. Now, Danny Singleton, the man that she asked about finding someone to delete Crystal, was 53 years old. He did do jail time. Not enough. He was arrested on December 16th of 2013, I'm sorry, on 38 counts of perjury. 38 counts of perjury. His initial bond was set at $200,000, later reduced to $100,000, and that was in March of 2016. He ended up getting released in July 15th of 2016 with about 8 months being served because he made a deal. And essentially, he was going to get a year. They let him out in 8 months after he pled guilty to the reduced charges. So instead of 38 counts of perjury with felony charges up to 20 years, they reduced it to 38 counts of false swearing misdemeanors. 360 days with time served. But he had to testify to what the terrible Rosemary had asked him. Now, next, we're going to talk about Brooks's brother, and this is him. This is Nick. And we're going to call him Knucklehead because his behavior was really suspicious. He turned his cell phone off for nearly 24 hours between July 2nd and July 4th, right during the time Crystal disappeared. This was the weekend he was supposed to help his girlfriend, Amber, move in with him, and they had purchased a home that they were going to fix up. And he was supposed to help her move in on July 3rd, but he told her he was going to help his brother instead. Amber called him about 15 times over 24 hours because she was desperate to talk to him. Needless to say, she is an ex-girlfriend and breathing. So with this family, that's good. In the next photo, when the police later searched Nick's cruiser, they actually found a blanket in the trunk. And they had also recorded a conversation between the hooligan and Rosemary showing her asking, What about the blanket, though? But nothing came out from the blanket. They didn't find anything. So he took a lie detector test, and Nick failed. And because he was a police officer, they fired him. Because actually, when they had the hooligan in for his, where they were talking to him about the case, Nick called and actually told his brother to leave. He said, don't be in there talking to him. So he did. The hooligan got up and left. And he also refused to testify before a grand jury. And he was a police officer. So yeah, he job long gone. So the conspiracy extended beyond this family because it included Steve Lawson, who was Hooligan's employee, you guys, and his son Joseph. Phone records show suspicious communication between all of these people the night she disappeared. Next slide. Now, what happened was, on the way home from this supposed date, there was a very short call where he called Steve Lawson. Now, he said he couldn't remember what the call was about, but he said when he was in with the police, he's like, well, here, let's call this number and find out. Oh, well, hey, it's Steve. Steve, what was it you called me about? And he's like, oh, about a rental property. And you said something about you were going to get the girl Marie or he said Crystal. Yeah, Crystal, you were going to have her call me. Oh, okay. And then they hung up. Now, the police that were talking to him goes, well, if she was sitting right beside you, oh, there's Danny Singleton. He was the one that talked to Mama. So they said, if you were going to have Crystal call Steve back, why didn't you just hand her the phone? And he goes, well, it was the weekend. She wasn't working. Yeah, but you said you would have to call her to tell her to call Steven. So you're implying she wasn't with you. And of course he tried his little Southern charm, which didn't work real well. But at 12:03 a.m. on July 4th, Steve and Joseph Lawson had a 3-minute phone call. And immediately after that call ended, Steve called Brooks for 13 seconds. So that's how that all happened. Steve later deleted several calls to his son and the hooligan. And let's have some more pictures, Doc. And during the trial, there was horrifying testimony that came out. Charlie Girdley is a former employee. And this employee, testified. Okay, next slide. We got behind on our slides. See, we're trying while we're working on the sound. Doc is in his office and I'm in my studio, and so it's like now I'm talking through a wall, especially since he can't hear me very well. But here we go. Next slide. So Charlie Girdley, this employee, told him that Joseph Lawson had said, well, when he was talking about Crystal Rogers, he says, I shaved her head and I pulled her teeth out and the hogs would do the rest, when referring to Crystal. So Girdley also testified that Joseph said he was going to bury Crystal's car with a skid steer and nobody would ever find it. Now the father, next slide, Steve Lawson's ex-girlfriend, Heather Sennell, testified that she overheard a conversation between the father and son, the Lawsons, about moving a body from the hooligan's farm using farm equipment. Next slide. And Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, he was an awesome man, you guys. He refused to give up searching for his girl. He organized search parties. He tracked leads. He was planning a large-scale out-of-town search. and tragedy struck. On November 19th of 2016, 16 months after Crystal's disappearance, Tommy was on his family's property. Oh, that's a picture there of Mr. Lawson. Next slide. And he was on his family's property, and he was going to go preparing for a hunting trip with his young grandson. He was shot and killed. The 54-year-old father was found dead, and his case remains officially unsolved to this day. And we all know that that is not a coincidence, because Tommy was never going to let this go. And they knew that, and he had to be out of the picture. The investigators and the family believe Tommy's deletion was connected to Crystal's case. That's Stephen Lawson's son, Joseph, the one that was saying all those horrible things he did to Crystal. Let's get rid of Joseph. Next slide. Probably do a couple of slides because we behind. But Sheriff Ramon Penaroa stated he believes Tommy was getting too close to the body or solving Crystal's disappearance. He said Tommy was described as a father who was not going to stop until she was found. And the prosecutors revealed that during the trial, they believe they actually have the firearm used to kill Tommy Ballard. And according to testimony, the hooligan's brother, Nick, sold a gun to an undercover agent using a fake name. And the investigations believe this was the murder weapon used on her father. Oh, that's Mr. Gridley, the man that Joseph decided to tell those horrid things to. There's Tommy. That's her daddy. He was, so not only did Sherry lose her daughter, she also lost her husband 16 months later. She also lost visitation rights with Eli, her youngest grandson, because they had a 3-judge panel, and they took her visitation rights away because there was contention between the hooligan and Sherry. I wonder how those judges feel now that the man that they were supporting was found guilty of deleting that little boy's mama. Makes you wonder. Okay, next slide. But the family tragedy even goes deeper. Back in 1979, Tommy's sister, Frida Charlene Sherry Ballard, went missing at 19 years old while she was 7 months pregnant. Her remains and those of her baby, her fetus, were found buried in the woods in 1983. Next slide. That's the sheriff that we were talking about. But I'm trying to get to the slide where we have Tommy's sister. Next. So they did eventually find her remains. Her car had been found in the river, but her estranged husband was convicted of the murder. And this case actually led to Kentucky to pass a law making fetal homicide a crime. And this is Sherry Ballard. And the weird thing was, Crystal had told her mom that the hooligan had asked about her aunt's death and what had happened. And Sherry said, looking back now, that was scary, and they understand why he was asking. So for years, the case stalled until the sheriff he contacted the FBI and asked them to take over the investigation because he knew they were at a standstill. So the FBI conducted extensive searches. They went to the hooligan's family farm, any house that the hooligan had built, and other locations, and they used hundreds of agents, canines, divers, drones, but they didn't find any definite evidence. Now, the breakthrough actually came with a painstaking investigation and advanced forensic analysis. In August of 2021, the FBI announced they had recovered an item of interest from concrete at one of the homes that Brooks had built in the Woodland Springs subdivision. Next slide. Shortly after Crystal's disappearance. And Sherry had remembered that Crystal had told her that the hooligan with his business was hiding that he was cheating on taxes and, money was disappearing. And she said, I think he thinks I'm an idiot and I don't know what's happening. That's why she wanted to quit working for him and why she was going to get out of there. So it could be that she knew way too much about his personal business. Next slide. So the key evidence included that cell phone data showing Brooks lied about his whereabouts on July 3rd. There was a hair found in a white Buick owned by Brooks's grandmother that matched Crystal's profile. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And there was suspicious phone communications between the conspirators. The witness testimony about the conspiracy to kill Crystal and dispose of her body. Now, in September of 2023, nearly 8 years after Crystal's disappearance, arrests started happening. Joseph Lawson was charged first, the creepy little dude, followed by the hooligan. And in December of 2023, Steve Lawson was also accused and arrested. Now, this is the judge, and this is Judge Charles Sims. He's the one that relocated the trials from Nelson County to Warren County, and because of all the media coverage. And he decided that he didn't want any cameras in the courtroom because he wanted to make sure that there was nothing that was going to disrupt this trial. He didn't want witnesses to feel uncomfortable testifying. And it wasn't unusual for a case of this magnitude with the intense media attention, but Bardstown had received over the years and the explosive nature of the allegations. He wanted to focus on justice and not a spectacle. So he was protecting the integrity of the jury process and making sure that the witnesses were comfortable. And after the trial was when we've now just recently, there is some footage out there that he released when the verdicts were reached, but not until then. So that's how we got to see the powerful moments, if anyone saw those on TV or YouTube, where the hooligan is stone-faced when they read the verdict that he's guilty, while her family just breaks apart, And, of course, the little nerdy boy, Lawson, is just creep, is led away in handcuffs. And, sometimes those dramatic courtroom moments, they're worth the wait. Let's see the next slide. Now, Steve Lawson had been tried first. He was actually tried back in May of 2025, and he was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence, and he was sentenced to 17 years in prison. So the main trial for Hooligan and Joseph began on June 24th in Bowling Green. And over 10 days of testimony, the prosecutors really showed this premeditated murder conspiracy. The special prosecutor, Shane Young, argued that Brooks wanted Crystal gone because he feared losing custody of his son if she left. And Young told the jury he didn't know who actually deleted Crystal, but he knew who was involved. And that's Steve Lawson right there. And we can go to the next slide. But he knew who was involved. It was the hooligan and the Lawsons. The prosecution case was built on circumstantial evidence, but it was compelling. They had the lies he told, most of the day at the family farm, not driving around on business like he tried to claim. He ignored desperate calls from her family, only answering his mother's. Cell phone data placed him and the Lawsons in suspicious communication patterns and whereabouts, and multiple witnesses testifying about this conspiracy of them wanting to delete her. So the defense argued, hey, there's no body, there's no crime scene, and no physical evidence. And Brooks' attorney or the hooligans attorney, Brian Butler, called the case garbage and claimed the investigators had tunnel vision and they just focused on the poor hooligan. Now, let me tell you a piece of evidence that's really damning. It made Crystal's family flee from the courtroom in tears when they heard it. Picture this. On April 28th, back in 2016, 10 months after Crystal vanished, her father, Tommy Ballard, a man who refused to let his daughter's case go cold, makes a desperate Facebook post. He tirelessly has been investigating, following every lead, right? Well, he posts a photo of a white Buick. Does anybody know who owns this car? It was seen near the farm the night Crystal disappeared. Well, for months, nobody came forward, right? That white car was a ghost, seen by raccoon hunters that night, and it was a rainy night in July in 2015, parked in the middle of nowhere near the hooligans' family farm around 10:30 p.m. These hunters thought it was weird. You know, who parks a car on a random gravel road during a thunderstorm? But they noted it and moved on. Tommy's Facebook post changed everything. Within days of that post going public, investigators get a tip. That white Buick? It belongs to Anna Whiteside, Hooligan's 82-year-old grandmother. There's Grandma. So we not only have Mama, we got Grandma now into this. And here's where it gets sinister, you guys. The police take the time to track down this information. The car has already been sold. Not weeks and not months, but days after Tommy's post. Security footage shows Nick, the brother, and Grandma Anna rushing to a Louisville, Kentucky dealership. And listen to this. The car salesman testified that they made the strangest request he'd ever heard. They specifically told him, do not inspect this car. Don't go in the trunk, don't look under the hood, and don't touch anything. Just give us a price and take it. What were they so desperate to hide, and why would any dealer listen to them? Well, investigators do track this car down, and the white Buick, the forensic testing revealed that horrifying truth. There was a hair similar to Crystal's found in the trunk. A cadaver dog detected the scent of human remains in that same trunk. And this wasn't just a car. This was Crystal's hearse. This is how, they took her away. So think about the coordination here. You have the brother, Nick, a trained police officer, helping his elderly grandmother dispose of evidence. They waited almost a year thinking they were safe. But the moment Tommy Ballard's Facebook post threatened to expose them, they panicked. They knew that car held secrets that could destroy the family. So this is what a police conspiracy looks like, truth seekers. A cop uses his knowledge of investigation to help cover up a murder. An elderly woman is becoming an accessory after the fact. A family so arrogant that they thought they could get away with murder. Tommy Ballard's relentless pursuit of justice had backed them into this corner. That Facebook post was working. It was going to expose the truth. And less than 8 months later was when Tommy was deleted, shot while hunting with his grandson. Coincidence? No. In Bardstown, Kentucky, there are no coincidences. There are only cover-ups, corruption, and a system that protects those who think they're untouchable. The white Buick was that smoking gun, you guys. And Tommy Ballard died because he refused to let them bury it. But the jury wasn't buying it. They didn't care what the defense attorney said. After only 4 hours of deliberation on July 8th, they came back with guilty verdicts on all charges. Hooligan guilty of murder, principal, or accomplice, and tampering with physical evidence. Joseph Lawson guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. In a swift penalty phase that lasted only about 5 minutes, The jury recommended maximum sentence. Brooks, life in prison plus 5 years to be served consecutively. Joseph, 25 years total, 20 years for conspiracy, 5 years for tampering served and consecutively. Next picture. The courtroom was filled with emotion as the verdicts were read. Crystal's family, they broke down in tears. Thank you, Lord. Crystal's daughter, Kaylee Fenwick, who was one of the first witnesses to testify at her mom's, trial, for her mother. She told the jury during the penalty phase, I've waited a long time for this. Ashley Miller, Crystal's oldest daughter, who was just 14 when her mother disappeared, spoke about the impact. There have been days of my life I sat down and cried because she was not there. Meanwhile, Hooligan and Joseph remained stone-faced as their guilty verdicts were read. Brooks was immediately handcuffed, or Hooligan, and taken away to begin serving what will likely be the rest of his life in prison. And this brings us to the question everybody in Bardstown is asking. Will others be arrested? Throughout both trials, prosecutors repeatedly referred to Rosemary and Nick as the unindicted co-conspirators. Sheriff Ramon Pinaroa believes charges against them may come soon. He says, I can foresee things coming. Don't know for a fact, but I've been at this for a little over 19 years. I can see a future indictment or arrest on these two. Pinaroa stated legal experts suggest that with Brooks, or Hooligan, now convicted, prosecutors may have additional leverage to pursue charges against the family. The fact that the jury deliberated for only 4 hours suggests they found the evidence of a broader conspiracy convincing. There's also the matter of Tommy Ballard's deletion. While that case remains officially unsolved, Sheriff Pinaroa has stated he believes that the Hooligans' family was responsible for Tommy's death because he was getting too close to solving that case. Next picture. Crystal's case, unfortunately, is just one of several mysterious deaths that have haunted Bardstown over the years. Back in 2013, Jason Ellis, he was a Bardstown police officer. He was ambushed and killed, and it's still unsolved. He literally was driving down a certain location, and there was brush pulled into the highway. When he stepped out to clear it, he was deleted. Kathy and Samantha Netherland in 2024. This is a mother and teenage daughter. They said they were brutally deleted. Still unsolved. Crystal disappeared, deleted, still no body. Tommy, her father, in 2016, shot while hunting. Still unsolved. Some have wondered if these cases are connected, though there's no definite link that establishes. However, the conviction in Crystal's case may provide some new leads in other investigations. And they think that Officer Ellis could have been looking at some of the same Hooligan family for some other stuff. So after 10 years of heartbreak, the Ballard family finally has some measure of justice. Though they haven't found her body, her killers have been brought to account. The case serves as a reminder that sometimes justice takes time, but persistence pays off. The FBI was methodical, and they combined it with the advances in forensic technology and the courage of witnesses to come forward, ultimately led to this conspiracy being cracked open. The formal sentencing for Hooligan and Joseph is actually scheduled for August 21st. Steve Lawson was sentenced will be sentenced on August 6th. But as for Crystal, if she'll ever be found, there are questions. With the main conspirators now facing life in prison, there may be incentive for someone to reveal where she is so that she could be brought home and laid to rest. But the small town of Bardstown continues to heal from a decades-long nightmare. Krista's children are growing up without their mother, but they know that justice has been served for the woman who loved them more than life itself. And Sherry said she couldn't have got through this without the town because she said they were constantly there for her. And so that's the deep dive into Crystal's case, and what started as a missing persons case revealed a shocking family conspiracy that may have claimed both her and her father's life. And that's just, it's so sad because all he was doing was trying to find his little girl. And it just kind of breaks your heart, doesn't it? But now let's think about the people we have. We have one missing person. Let's see. Whoops. There we go. Can we have the next slide? Because one of the people I had listed as missing I just found out right before we went on air, she was located, which I love a good ending. But Doc, can you move the slide? Slide, please. Hey, Doc. William Blacksmith is from Rapid City, South Dakota. He's been missing since July 3rd. He's 16. Next slide. She got located. We like that. They found Addison. She's home safe. So age 16 is William Blacksmith. He's got brown hair, brown eyes, 5'11". He's 170 pounds. He was last seen wearing a white shirt. Next slide, Doc. Khaki shorts and carrying a black and white backpack. If you see him, contact the Rapid City Police Department at 605-394-4131. Let's hope that they can get him located. If you enjoyed the episode, please, everybody, subscribe to Trial Junkies United. Leave us a comment tomorrow after he gets done cooking the video. That helps with our analytics. We also have, if you want to buy us a coffee, that's all in the description tomorrow. We're going to keep following this case to see if we get any more arrests. I want to see Mama get arrested. I really do. And if they ever find Crystal. So as far as Samantha on Sarah Isabel Martinez's case, I have talked to her today. She thanked us all. She's an awesome, courageous woman. And tomorrow on Discord and also on the Facebook group, I will be posting our sample letter and some email addresses. Sarah's going to get us a few more email addresses, okay? So I'm Z. Remember, the truth always finds a way to surface, even when it takes 10 years. Every killer relies on the silence. Don't be why we share another story on our channel. If you know something, speak up, because it wasn't a mannequin, and it never is, you guys. Until next time, stay informed, stay compassionate, and seek justice. And I love you all.
We promise we'll get the sound figured out.
You heard Doc. Everybody, you all have a good night. Night, Falla, Pammy, Matt, and Sarah, and therapist, and Ken, everybody that was here. Our dinosaur what was it? I can't remember. I love y'all. Good night. Ciao.